Hello, my name is Clara. I'm one of the young producers currently working at the National Gallery, and today I'm going to briefly talk about this painting over here, which is called The Four Elements Fire, which was completed around 1570 by the Flemish painter Joachim Beuckelaer. It is one of four paintings which are loosely supposed to represent the four elements. So the four elements was a pseudoscience which had its origins in ancient Greece, and it was believed to represent and control various aspects of the human body as well as the natural world. With the element of fire, it was considered that people had very fiery personalities, but also, more importantly in the case of this painting, that it was linked to the gallbladder, which was used for digesting fat. Now, hold that thought, because I'll come back to that. So, let's start first with the foreground of the painting. So what we first see, and it's this overwhelmingly sensual, lush depiction of meat. We have ham, we have mutton chops, but we also have a variety of different poultry, which is mouth-watering. But depending on your taste, you may even find the two female servants preparing the food, appetizing as well, but you never know. So you've got these guys preparing food, and then in the midground, we've got the cooks preparing the meal, and they're right next to the fire. So that's a literal link to the title, fire, but also it links to the four elements because we've got lots of fat, it needs to be digested, hence the gallbladder association with the element of fire. So it's beginning to make a little bit more sense, hopefully. But one question that arises is, who is all this food being prepared for? Well, if we go straight to the background, we see a group of people sitting at the dining table. And look, there's a guy with a halo. It's Jesus, and he's come for dinner. How exciting. But why would Jesus be in a 1570 painting in Flanders? Well, he didn't actually go to Flanders, but he did visit the house of Mary and Martha, two sisters living in Jerusalem. And they got really excited that they have this really important guest coming to their house. So Martha went to the kitchen and she was busy cooking, but she was really annoyed to find Mary sitting there listening to Jesus and not helping him. So she gets really annoyed and it's like, Jesus, aren't you gonna tell her off for being so, unhelpful? And Jesus is like, Martha, Martha, you worry about too many things, but Mary's made the right decision and she's listening to me. What this is interpreted to mean is that spiritual matters are a lot more important than material pursuits like cooking and eating food. Which leads me into the first interpretation of this painting that researchers have come up with, and that is that this entire display of the kitchen is a moral warning against the sin of gluttony. So, you've got all this food here, it's distracting, it's sensual, but then the artist has used this sharp perspective that draws you away from all the distracting food, and your eyes are drawn straight to the biblical narrative. It's as if the artist wants you to take aside all the sensual distractions of daily life and the pursuit of material pleasure, and instead look and find the quiet spiritual truth hidden deep within the painting. Then comes the second interpretation, where some people believe that actually, no, this isn't a universal message. The painting isn't talking to the viewer. It's not telling to the viewer, beware of gluttony, but in fact, it's saying, actually, it's the working class. It's the cooks and the maids and the servants who are the ones that are dodgy. Now, why would they say something like that? During the 16th century, people had just begun to rediscover classical writers, such as Cicero in Western Europe. And Cicero wrote a very famous piece where he stated that people who are butchers, fishmongers, or cooks cannot be trusted because they work directly with bodily pleasures, food, and they cater to material pursuits. So by being morally dubious, you're also socially inferior. And so the elite, who would have been owners of this painting, would have seen this as justification of their moral superiority. And you can see this in even more detail when you look at the details in the painting. So starting from the midground here, you've got the two female cooks who are very close to the fire, and fire is a symbol of hell, so they're right at the gateways of hell, quite literally. The guy dressed in green looks very unsteady, and it looks like he's gobbling down alcohol, so he's a drunk. But more importantly, when you come to the front of the painting again, you see these two possibly seductive-looking females. This woman is looking rather suggestively at the viewer, but they're both dressed in red, and red was a color associated commonly with lust. But more importantly, they are holding birds. Now, in the Dutch language at the time, Veuckelaer had a double meaning. It meant poultry and birds, but it also meant to copulate. So if you saw pictures of people holding up birds, it could potentially mean, you know, I want to have sex, or I'm very loose morally. I have a very uncontrolled sexuality. So there we have these morally dubious individuals at the front, and then who's in the dining room? Jesus, the elite, would never go in the kitchen. They would be where he's standing. No one bothered to ask them, well, who are they making all this food for? You're eating them, right? But never mind, that's a different matter. The third interpretation is saying, no, all of this is utter nonsense. Why would this be a warning against gluttony, and why would this be a criticism of food when the artist has taken so much time to paint everything in meticulous detail? Why would he put it so forward into the foreground? Why can you just touch the food? Why would he do that? And some people say this is because essentially the artist and the person he was painting the work for were interested in still life, they were interested in domestic scenery, and that the biblical scene and the innuendos are just an excuse to paint everyday life. So when you consider this interpretation, this is the beginning of art for art's sake, painting still life for the sake of painting still life. Now, hopefully, from this very short talk, you can see that just by looking at this painting very quickly and analyzing the different layers, there are a variety, a huge range of interpretations that you could come up with, and there isn't necessarily a right answer. The painter's dead, the people who bought the painting are dead, we don't know what they had in mind, but we have the freedom to decide, based on what we've seen, what this could potentially mean. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching this. If you'd like to learn more about our paintings, please click here or here, and if you'd like to learn more about the Young Producers Program at the National Gallery, please don't forget to check out the description below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Bye.